Thank you for joining today's conversation. In this session, we're going to discuss more about connector projects, or what is as we are called peace dividends projects, using the particular case of the Queen of Peace Rukuini School in Rukuini area of Ban Forest in Eldoret South in the county of Uasin Gishu. Following the 2007 electoral conflict, the region around Ban Forest was largely affected. This was premised on the indigenous foreigner discourses around land ownership in the region. Now, with a view towards reconciling the communities, the Catholic Church, in specific the Catholic Diocese of Eldoret, and the Catholic Justice and Peace Commission, under the leadership of Reverend Cornelius Korir, initiated a series of connector projects in the region. Key among the connector projects that were initiated in the region is the Queen of Peace Rukuini School. Now, joining us into this conversation is the Deputy Principal, who is going to shed more light on how this particular connector project managed to help in the integration of communities.
Very much for creating time for the discussion. As I earlier mentioned to you, I'm a student of international relations and I'm writing on peace, specifically on interventions that were put in place to address conflict transformation in the country following the 2007 violence. Now, probably if I would hear your experience around what happened in 2007 and the effects of the violence around this area.
So, first of all, thank you very much for coming to check on our status.
Right.
Because we've been in a very challenged region.
Right.
Where when I came here, I found there were so many problems that were there in terms of people relating, because the uncertainty that was brought about by the violence, which actually sparked in 2007 or 2009, which was not really calculated, so to speak. But it is something that came out and it was senseless, and people were fighting one another. And because of the utterances of the politicians,
right,
they were able to identify their neighbors by their tribe, which was actually the main thing that caused the displacement that was experienced in this school. So around here, people were fighting one another.
Right.
And it costed some people to leave this place, and property was destroyed. And there are so many people who had built some nice homes around here.
Right.
So their homes were damaged.
Right.
Some of them, they decided completely to leave this region and to possibly dispose of what they had built around here.
Right.
So it was something that did not spare the school either.
Right.
Because the school was totally demolished. And if the principal was around here, you could have seen some of the pictures, which are very disturbing.
Right.
So the school was totally destroyed. It was flattened, so to speak.
Right.
And there were two communities that were fighting, which initially were living so peacefully with one another.
Yeah, which communities?
That's we had the Kikuyu, who live around here, and then we have the Kalenjin, more specifically the Nandis,
right,
who seem to be the inhabitants of this place.
Right.
So actually, during the violence is when some of them discovered that there are those tribes living.
Right.
But initially they were so peaceful.
Right.
Living and coexisting without any problem.
Right.
Yeah.
And basically the question would be, what were the impacts of the violence in the area?
The violence destroyed completely the fabric of the people who are staying around here.
Right.
It made many people to dislocate from here.
Right.
So they left completely this place. The place was deserted. The public infrastructure, like a school like this one here, was totally destroyed.
Right.
So it's like it made this place not to be habitable anymore.
Right.
Until the intervention took place, which made the construction of these buildings that you can see around here.
Right.
It also put up our primary schools that is up there.
Right.
So the other donors and the other helpers are the ones who put things into place.
Yeah, and here in this case, when you talk about the other donors, whom do you refer to?
I'm referring to several donors, including the military forces of the United States,
Right.
who are directly involved in providing funds through the Catholic Church, that is the Diocese of Eldoret.
Right.
They donated funds, and I'm talking about houses like the media houses, the Nation Media Group, the Standard Group. They came in handy, and they made donations
Right.
that really brought up the infrastructure that had been totally destroyed.
So they built up the whole school afresh. Or
The school was built afresh.
right.
In fact, there was a very small structure that was left just beyond this office,
Right.
which was left in existence, that was joined. But the rest of the structures were totally demolished.
Right. And what was the role of the Catholic Church, especially the Diocese of Eldoret?
The Catholic Church, I can call it, is the pillar.
Right.
And as far as I'm concerned, from the things that have happened here, is our main savior.
Right.
Because the diocese is the one who identified a donor who was able to bring up the structures that we have.
Right. And we understand that there were two communities that prominently, I would say, the Kikuyu community and the Kalenjin community around this area. How did they choose to get back together and probably have their children or parents, supporting their children to come back to this school?
I mean, that was a very difficult thing to do, but I think we thank God, because most of these things have happened because of God's plans.
Right.
Because it was initially very difficult to call them back and then relate very well,
Right.
because they have very bad memories on what happened when the neighbors were maiming one another.
Right.
So there are so many interventions they made, because, for example, the school had introduced a peace club, which was seriously trying to bring the two communities together.
Right.
So that they can build a peace and then remember that what they did not benefit any one of them.
Right.
The
violence,
because it affected both the communities.
Right.
There's no single community that was spared.
Right.
For that kind of thing that occurred.
Right. And now, how has the school as a connector project managed to bring the communities together?
It's because we have teachers who come from around here, who are part of the teaching force in this school, for example.
Right.
We have children who are learning in this school who happen to come from around.
Right.
And those ones, they cater for the two communities that were initially rivaling.
Right.
And we have, our school, for example, has come up very strongly as one of the best schools that offers songs in the school's competition.
Right.
So in this competition where they sing, they incorporate the two communities.
Right.
We have students who go up to nationals to sing.
Right.
That connectivity has made them realize that Kumba, they all are human beings.
Right. So the Connectors project, in the name of the school, has managed to bring the community to the communities together. How about the parents?
Now the parents are part of that community, and I mean, we've been having several meetings, which is including the opinion leaders of this area,
right?
Who normally, when we have any function even in the school, we invite them,
right?
And they preach peace,
right?
So that has played a major role in connecting the people,
right?
Because they talk peace and they tell them that lack of peace will affect everybody,
right?
Do not spare anybody,
right?
And they have seen the sense in it,
right? How about the composition of the teaching fraternity?
So the composition of the teaching fraternity involves mainly, before some people came here, it was involving the two communities also.
Right.
We had the Kalenjin teachers, and then we had the Kikuyu teachers who were here.
Right.
But I have to confess that when I came here, I saw a very wanting situation where the students were not looking at the teachers as their teachers. They were looking at them as members from another community. So discipline was a major challenge.
Right.
Because when, for example, a Kikuyu teacher is punishing a Kalenjin student, the children who mumble and go around and then say, Akikuyu has beaten us.
Right.
You know, that kind of thing.
Right.
That's what I saw when I came here, because I'm now 6 years old here.
Right.
And I thought my coming here, because I don't come from any of those two communities,
Right.
I came to bridge the gap.
Right. So there was even that antagonism between students and teachers, that students who are from a certain community feel like they should not be punished or disciplined by a teacher from another community.
Correct.
But after this connector project, has that improved in any way?
The situation has totally changed.
Right.
Because all the time, even when I talk to students in the assembly, I always tell them they're human beings and they should value the human nature.
Right.
Regardless of their background.
Right.
And I want to thank God because these children have changed.
Right.
Since I came here, for example, I've seen a great change.
Right.
They are seeing their teachers as their mentors.
Right.
Which, according to me, this connector program has played a role. The only thing that has not happened is that we have not had an opportunity of having these connectors coming and meeting these children so that they get the progress of the of the project they had initiated.
Right.
Because even right now as we speak, since the school was constructed, it has not been dedicated.
Oh, right.
So it is a gap that is still, you know, incomplete.
Right. Now, most of the parents around this place, or even the teachers, and maybe some children may have observed, the violence. Have most of them healed? Are there some who are going through psychosocial, who would require some, who are still yet to recover from the trauma of the violence?
That is very correct what you're saying, because when I came here in 2013, that's when I was posted here by the state, I found a group of students who were so fearful. I mean, they were fearful of virtually everything that looks violent.
Right.
They were so fearful of weapons.
Right.
Because some of them were so traumatized.
Right.
That I found them still, scared.
Right.
So, but I think the church has done a lot, and the various churches that decided to partner in trying to address that issue, they have done a lot.
Right.
So, for example, right away, we have several churches around the school, which have played a major role to fix that problem.
Right.
But it was very clear that time, even though it has totally improved.
Right.
Because right now we have a different generation of students who might have not experienced the same.
All right. Was there like a process of healing that took time?
It took time, that's correct. And that's why even the caning, I told you when I came in 2013, the caning a student, they were not looking at it as a corrective measure.
Right.
You know, they were looking at it separately as if it's a continuation of the
violence. Right. Okay. Well, I thank you very much for creating time for the discussion. Probably the last question would be, in the last 10 years, in your own perspective, the country has been putting so many interventions for peace. How are we moving towards sustainable peace? Are we making progress towards sustainable peace?
As far as I'm concerned, we are making a lot of progress. But there is one destructor which I think, unless it is fixed,
right,
we keep on going backwards.
Right.
Particularly the utterances of the politicians.
Right.
They remind people memories which take them back
right,
to where we come away from.
Right.
So if God can talk to the politicians,
right,
the country is making good progress.
Right. Fine. I thank you very much once more.
Okay.
Well, that's all we had for you this session. Thank you for watching.